Hey, it's Sam, and doing this lunar eclipse video for you. The moon will be eclipsed in Virgo on Saturday morning, early Saturday morning. On the Pacific time zone, it's about 3:30 or something, about 6:30 a.m. Eastern time zone here in the United States. Now, this is a big eclipse, of course they all are, but it was after the solar eclipse in Pisces, which really tried to connect us to something beyond and something mystical and metaphysical, and really kind of blew up a certain area of life, especially with the conjunction of Mars there, and a lot of other of the configurations that I talked about at the time. You can go back and watch that solar eclipse video. But really a time to dissolve a certain preconception about who we are and what we're willing to stand for as a person, even on a collective level, because Pisces is that sign which is beyond the collective person that we are, which is Aquarius. It's the next sign where we dissolve even beyond our association as an individual with the greater picture, but now we're actually dissolving even that universalized person, because Aquarius is actually where our individuality becomes subservient to the collective, where we want to serve something bigger than ourselves for the betterment of the world and culture, and there's a lot of social issues involved in Aquarius. Pisces, the next sign where we had the solar eclipse, is beyond even that. It's where then that collective persona within wants to surrender to the metaphysical. So even that collective persona has a hard time with, grasping existence in Pisces. That's why Pisces is those two fish kind of swimming back and forth, not really of this world. That sort of yin-yang symbol. So it could have been a very kind of explosive time, explosive externally, but also internally, and of course a lot of potential confusion and projection and fantasy around it, because that's the nature of Pisces. So, as I said at the time, we better be careful what we blow up and destroy and let go of, because a couple weeks from now, as I said then, we're going to have the Virgo lunar eclipse, which is going, okay, now I need to organize this new structure, this new paradigm, this new liberation and freedom from something that started a couple weeks ago. And so this is the Virgo eclipse. This is kind of the backdrop of this Virgo lunar eclipse. And realize, the solar eclipse, the sun is the Paramatman, where we're trying to obliterate and blow up. Well, I'm sorry, the sun is the Paramatman, where we're trying to purify our version of self on a very high level. Not the individual self that has a personality and desires and needs and a willingness to express itself. That's not the sun. That's the ruling planet, the Lugna Lord. That unique self has work to do and things to do and a beautiful identity. That's not the sun. The sun is the universal self, the universal being, which is beyond that, beyond the incarnations in this lifetime, beyond the unique self. Okay? So again, what can happen, I'll just back up a little bit, is that the sun can often burn off parts of our life that the unique self wants. And we have to be very careful, because it might authentically be it might be something authentic to the unique self, and then these eclipses can blow it up, and then it's not there anymore, and then the unique self, who is still living here in the world, is like, okay, I want that thing now. This is why the sun is a malefic, because it burns things up. Like Lord Buddha, who had a king and a wife and a beautiful thing, renounced it all to seek the soul. He renounced the whole world and everything he had. So to his wife, Lord Buddha wasn't a very nice guy. We worship him because he was emancipated, but to his wife, he wasn't too cool. She felt the malefic quality of the sun. So the sun, a couple weeks ago, really kind of torched something. And this happens every new moon cycle, but on eclipses it's much more concentrated, and depending on which end of the node, whether it's Ketu or Rahu, there's a unique function, which I talked about a couple weeks ago. The fact that Mars was also there made it quite explosive and very polarizing. So now, with the full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo, again, the moon is very much about the Jiva Atman, the feeling of being an incarnated soul. What that feels like, and it's the moon that wants to feel good and have stuff and not have everything blown open and blown up. And this is why we need to be careful. And it's in Virgo, which is about all the pieces and how those pieces fit together in our life on Earth. So the moon, which is the feeling of being alive, and the moon, which is the Jiva, which has gone with us from lifetime to lifetime, is what's getting eclipsed now. So that feeling of what your life is and what you have, what you don't have, perhaps what you just lost, what you just blew up, a lot of that is ripe right now. Or what you've let go. Doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. You can blow something up or let something blow up and go, okay, I see this thing blowing up and I'm just going to let it blow up. I'll try, but I'm only going to try so much. So, organizing the new paradigm and managing the life that you have is going to be big now with this full moon in Virgo, this eclipsed full moon in Virgo. So organizing the pieces of your life in an overall sense, of course, but now that it's happening in this eclipse cycle, though, there's going to be a big reference to what just happened a couple weeks ago and the changes and transformations that you went through and the willingness to let go and to dissolve and to see yourself as this cosmic being and to let go of things that you don't think are taking you toward that highest self. Whatever you let go of or got blown up or whatever, you're now grappling with the emotional pressure, the emotional realization of that now. And Virgo is very much about all the little details and how those details make up our life and how we need to have intelligence with those details because some of them are beneficial and some of them are dangerous. Virgo is a tamasic sign which is motivated toward worry and stress and recognizing the details that are difficult and making sure that we don't let them destroy us or destroy something, destroy the ones we love and all that stuff. This is how the guna works. It's a motivation, and the motivation of Virgo is to be protected and to make sure that things are organized in a way where we feel safe and protected and where there is a lot of flexibility and intelligence, hopefully, to navigate all of those details. Now, this is happening in the Nakshatra of Hasta, which literally means the hand, and it's an open hand, which shows that we are supposed to have detachment from things. It's a hand of manifestation. Planets in Hasta, and any relationship to Hasta has a quality of karma and attachment, just like you see the goddess Kali is wearing a skirt of hands. And those hands represent our attachment. We grab a hold of something of this world and say, this is mine. This is me, this is mine, because I did it, because I want it. Because there's a certain amount of, I guess you would say, ego or identity, maybe is a better word, that comes from all of the battles we've won and the realizations we've had about things and the things we've created. And that attachment or that identity creates an attachment. When someone asks you who you are, a lot of what comes forth, of course, maybe is a family history and all like that, but when you really start to describe who you are, it really revolves around what you've done. This is why karma is such a big thing, and this is what karma is, really, simply. Who you are based on what you've done, what you've experienced. And that includes things like if you experience deep states of, samadhi and union with cosmic consciousness, you start to see yourself that way. That's also a karma, and that's also an action. So karma includes everything, not just your punishment. That's not what karma is. It's what you do. And who you are based on what you do. It might sound easy and simple, but ponder how important that is. Because everything you do is going to be in the present moment. Presence. The present moment. It's all you have. And everything you do is going to be in the present moment. Some fantasy that you have about what you do is not what you do. The fantasy is not the reality. The fantasy is very related to Jupiter and those kinds of things, and the reality is related to Saturn, putting it into practice. So the identity that you have based on what you do is karma. That's how karma evolves as well. Because once you start doing other things that are actually spiritual, like meditation and opening different states of consciousness, that's going to be an experience, and that's going to be a groove of karma. So again, these are very possible in Hasta Nakshatra. There's a lot of sadhana and technique at the heart of this nakshatra, and it's the seat of the Lord Savitur, who was one of the Adityas, the incarnations of the sun that were brought forth here on earth to give us a life of sustenance and wealth and prosperity and liberation. And the important mantra for this eclipse is the Gayatri mantra. Om Bhurbhuvasvaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Na Prachodayat. Right? You've heard that one? That's the Gayatri mantra, and it's related to Hasta because Savitur is deity, Tat Savitur Varenyam. It's a great mantra. It's a manifestation mantra, it's a health mantra, protection mantra. And so organizing the mind and consciousness and how that filters out into your life is a big part of this lunar eclipse. And following the solar eclipse, which could have been quite polarizing and destructive in ways that were beneficial or not, destroying what needs to be destroyed, letting go of what needs to be let go of, awakening to an illusion, perhaps, that you were under, and all of that stuff is up for you now. And how to organize that around your incarnated self and the feeling of being a jiva, a living being, not just a cosmic being. Now, if you want to see how this affects your sign, and you're not one of my members, you can do that, only 1 penny, and you'll see how this affects your sign, and you'll also get the solar eclipse video for the members, so you can really understand the axis that this eclipse is activating in you. See, the eclipses activate an axis of karma. Every new moon and full moon, we have a version of this, so everyone should understand these cycles year-round. And I have people who are members of my member site for years and years at a time, because it's so valuable to stay in tune with which lessons are getting activated during any given fortnight and any given cycle. This is what I really pay attention to with my astrology. People ask me what I look at relative to my astrology. This is the main stuff I look at. What's the cycle I'm in right now? Like, where is the new moons and full moons falling? Of course, when an eclipse happens, it's even more magnified. But then also, you know, where the planets are moving day to day, what nakshatras are happening. This is all part of my member site, and when you register for only 1 penny, you also get 2 weeks of forecasts where I break down the panchanga every day. I talk about the Titi, the nakshatra, the aspects, the Vara, which is the Lord of the day, and how all of those things come together each day. So again, it's very important to understand, like if you're a Capricorn, this is going to be a lunar eclipse in your 9th house, which has been opposite the solar eclipse in your 3rd house. So this 3-9 axis is very important for a Capricorn. Scorpio, it's the 5-11 axis. This is totally different things getting activated. So again, I really recommend people, you know, who want to know what this eclipse has meant for them and you don't have a deep explanation relative to your sign, to take a chance and spend a penny to find out for yourself. And after that, if you want to keep going, it's about $1 a day, but you could cancel before the 2 weeks are up and not even pay any more than a penny. So either way, this is a very important lunar eclipse in Virgo. It's being eclipsed by Rahu, the North Node, which really is going to accelerate our emotions around it as well. Because, again, Ketu really concentrates things. So the solar eclipse was concentrated, and it can be a very high standard of perfection. There can be intolerance, and anything that's not perfect in that area of life, we want to just negate. That's Ketu Sun. When you bring Mars in, we not only want to negate it, we want to blow it up and flip out on whatever we're projecting. If we're projecting it onto someone or some external situation, we might be very explosive about it. So that was the Ketu Sun in Pisces solar eclipse. Now the Rahu moon in Virgo, as I said, moon is Jiva. It's the feeling of being alive, wanting to have connection to family and love and divine beauty. In Virgo, where we're now going to be aware of all the pieces in our life that we need to have together in order to experience those things. And again, we've just been through a very transformative area of life, so maybe looking back and reflecting back on what we just did is going to be a big part of this lunar eclipse, and it's Rahu, which is eclipsing it, which can definitely create a lot of imagined fears and worries and stresses about those things like, man, what have I just done? Is this, is this really the right thing? Should I have done that? Was that too much of an extreme? And kind of maybe worry and stress about that. Or the other possibility is an enormous expansion and connection to the truth in the heart and the realization that, we're a divine soul, and we have this unlimited capacity for universal love, universal wisdom and beauty. That's also possible. It can be a little harder because, again, the moon is where we want to feel connected to our worldly life more than anything else. And Rahu tends to create a lot of imagined fears around things. But again, if it wasn't so disruptive, and in fact really connected us to a deeper truth, then this Rahu moon lunar eclipse can fortify that. And it can anyway. If we have a spiritual practice, regardless of what's happened or whatever, it can really connect us to that universal wisdom in the heart rather than the emotions. See, the problem with the moon is that we ride up and down on the emotions, on the waves of emotion, rather than connect to the depth of feeling that's in our heart. That's what the moon really is. That's what every emotion, the source of every emotion is love. True love, divine love. That's the source of every emotion. And my Guru Amma says, love has no opposite. Love has no opposite. Love is not an emotion, it's a flow. This is why I have a Sadguru. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. We mistake emotions for love, and then we're tossed about. We get jacked up on some emotion, and then when it doesn't work out, we crash on the other side of the emotion, right? So the depth and the truth of the moon is not emotional, it's the heart, the source, the divine love that doesn't have a condition, that doesn't have an outcome, that doesn't have a goal. It's not an emotion, it's a flow. So you can connect to that greater flow as well right now. But it takes a lot of mastery. It takes a lot of mastery. And you may experience quite a lot of emotional disruption and maybe some stress and worry about all the details, how to communicate them, how to arrange your life now that it is what it is. And, a few other things. We still have these two retrograde planets. Saturn is still retrograde, Jupiter is retrograde. So there's a lot of reflection and introspection around our hopes and our commitments with Jupiter and Saturn. The other really important thing is Mercury, the ruler of the eclipse, is debilitated now in Pisces. So it could be very hard to kind of weed through what you think about what's going on, because Mercury gives discrimination to Virgo, gives a voice to our inner identity. That voice in your head comes from Mercury. What you're telling yourself about what things mean comes from Mercury. How you're interpreting things, that's Mercury, that voice in your head. And that the clarity or lack of clarity of that voice is going to be very important now, because Mercury rules Virgo. Mercury rules this eclipse. So the capacity to really understand and unravel all of these details could be compromised right now. Because Mercury is debilitated, it's in Pisces where there's confusion, and you might not be telling yourself the right picture. It might be confused and you're like not sure, and thus where to organize all these details is unclear. So Mercury comes to our benefit in Virgo areas of life because that's the one we use to sort through all of the details in the world and see them with equanimity and not distort them or confuse them or conflate them. When a person has a stressed Mercury, they distort and conflate and blow things up in ways in their mind that aren't realistic, and they lose their way of that kind of mutuality that's necessary. So you might be confused about how things fit into the bigger picture right now and how to organize all of these things because Mercury is also debilitated. So I also noticed I rambled in this video a little bit more because Mercury is debilitated. So sorry I kind of went roundabout, but I'm not going to edit it or do anything with it because I'm too busy. But anyway, I hit all the important points, and I hope it was okay. So, meditation, sadhana, spiritual practices, very important during eclipse cycles on this lunar eclipse as it approaches. You know, Friday night and Saturday is when we're going to really be in it. And of course later Saturday as well. So, I hope everything's going well with everyone and things haven't been too disruptive or destructive, and that it's been an opportunity for you to really see a deeper level of truth and make peace with it.